Namaste everyone, this is Stephen from YogaWorks and welcome to your practice. Today we're going to be doing some subtle core work. You may be, what? Subtle and core work in the same sentence? That is impossible. Well, it's not, and I would like to show you how. We've got an incredibly intelligent system in our body that is working hard to keep us stable, to keep us upright, to keep us healthy for as long as possible. And there's a lot of deep core muscles that you may never have heard of, which I want to introduce to you today, so that you get a little bit of a better and perhaps more complete and positive understanding of how your core is working. Now, if we look at the core and we compare it to a structure, let's say a house, then we've got the foundation of the house, the bottom of the house, which is made up of our pelvic floor. Without this, of course, everything would just collapse down and flow out. So it's a really important part, and it's a little bit like a diaphragm, but upside down, which is sort of spanned between the points of your pelvis and the pubic bone and the tailbone at the back. And then the top of the house is made up out of the diaphragm. So that's the top of what you could call the core. There's a lot of possible definitions of this. And the diaphragm, what it does is it pulls the bottom of the lungs down to increase our lung capacity. It's a main breathing muscle. And of course, when it pulls down, it's going to push the belly contents out. It's quite a strong, deep core muscle. So we've got the bottom and the top. Then we've got the sides of the house, which are the obliques. That's the muscles in your waist, which do side bending, which do twisting, but actually they mainly provide a strong structure just to stay upright. Then on a deeper level, we've got the TVA, the transverse abdominis, which is the muscle when you cough, for example. That's the one that contracts, and it's sort of like a corset all around your lower back, your belly, and the sides that can contract this way. So the fibers run like that. That's the transverse abdominis. And then there's another one which you may have never heard of, which is called multifidus. There's a lot of them, which is multifidi, and they are little deep spinal core muscles that connect several vertebrae, which are 2 to 3 spaces apart from each other, and they move the spine not in a big long arch, but in a very local little part. So they are more stability and deep core muscles, and when we activate them, we get a more refined action of the spine, and we can move the spine with a little bit more precision. We're going to be focusing on the multifidi in the lower back, but actually they run all the way up to the upper spine as well. Nice. Let's get going for this first one. We actually don't need anything yet, but later on we're going to be using a block and blanket as well. So maybe get that ready, press pause if you need to. The first one, diaphragm. So I would like you to just rest your hands lightly on the belly. On the inhale, push your belly out into the hands, which is drawing the diaphragm down and expanding the contents in the abdomen. On the exhale, relax the belly back. You can even exaggerate by pulling a little bit extra back. Inhale, provide light pressure with the hands and push the belly out. Exhale. Keep your awareness at the bottom of the rib cage. Inhale, diaphragm draws down, belly is pushed out. Exhale. If you want, increase the pressure with your hands, you can push quite hard. Inhale, use the diaphragm to push out. It's harder now because you're adding that pressure from the hands. Exhale, just relax, let the hands push out the air. Inhale, push a little bit harder and press the belly out. You might feel a slight shaking deep in your core. It's your diaphragm learning new strength. Exhale. Let's do 2 more. Press with the hands. Inhale, lift the belly against the hand pressure. You can choose the intensity there. Exhale, relax the belly back. 1 more, go for it. Choose the pressure with your hands. Inhale, the belly is pressed out. Exhale to release. Now let's get the block. We're going to be placing it like this, and then this sort of a sausage that you make with your blanket, or it could be a pillow, will go over the block, and then your ankles will go on either side of the block, and we'll just sit on that roll. And guess what? We have pinpointed a point of awareness to feel our pelvic floor. It should be quite soft. You don't want super hard pressure here, but on the inhale, feel how the diaphragm is pushed down a little bit more. There's a downward pressure on that roll. On the exhale, can you draw the pelvic floor a little bit up and away from the roll? Imagine the sitting bones narrowing a bit. Inhale, feel the downward pressure, pelvic floor on the roll. Exhale, lightly contract the pelvic floor so there's a lifting action from the pelvic floor there. Inhale, feel the spreading out and opening. Exhale, feel a drawing up towards the top of the head. Inhale, expand down. Exhale, draw up, and you feel it's not just pelvic floor, but it seems to activate along the whole spine. In the yogic tradition, the whole spine, actually the whole upper body is your core. Inhale, let's do one more. Exhale, lift up, lightly draw the belly back. So in the yogic tradition, there is a lock at the base of the spine, which is the pelvic floor, or those muscles. Then there's a lock around the belly, this is called the Uddiyana Bandha, and then there's a lock at the chin, at the top of the spine, which is called Jalandhara Bandha. The base one is called Muladhara. So that's really helpful to feel that area that we are working with. Nice. So you can place that off to the side. Now we'll practice the transverse abdominis, which is that corset muscle that goes all the way around our waist, the belly and the lower back. And then to feel this, we'll just lie back on our back, and with your hands feel the hip points, those bony parts, and the front of the hips, and then go a couple of centimeters in to the center and a little bit down. So you're close to the hip crease, a little bit inwards. And I'd like you to now press the lower back into the mat so that there's no more space for you to slide your hands there, and just feel there's that activation of those deep core muscles. It's a good place to feel them in the groin there. And then see if you can keep that core activation. Press your lower back down, and then just lift your right knee above your hip. If that goes well, lift the left knee above your hip. Can you keep pressing your lower back into the mat? If it's not possible with both legs, then just do one at a time, that's fine. We want to build this up slowly. And then if you feel like you could take slightly more, keep your fingers there with some light pressure just to feel that activation. Keep your lower back glued to the mat. And then we're just going to touch the right heel down really lightly just to the mat and lift it back up without losing this core strength here. So imagine this tube, now left heel, go down and lift up. Just alternate the legs. Go really slowly. We're not trying to do a couple of reps. Actually, the leg movement is not important, but it helps us to destabilize the system so that our core has to work harder to keep our torso firm, which is what we're after today in today's practice. Nice. Couple of rounds. Let's do one more on each side, and just feel the continuous activation, lower back pressing down, and there's that core activation underneath your fingers. And then just Place your feet back down. Take a breath. Next muscle we'll do is the multifidus or multifidi, the plural. Roll over onto your belly. Place your hands on top of each other to rest your head. And this one's a bit hard to show, it's quite subtle, so you'll have to discover this in your own body. But all I'm going to do is lift the tailbone up and arch my lower back. So I'm tilting the pelvis, and a deep tension in the lower back, that's actually the multifidi that we are engaging. That's creating a local mini back bend in the lower spine, you could say. And then release that. Let's do this a couple of times. Engage, arch your lower back, lift the tailbone, pronounce that curve a little bit more. You might actually notice that there's some deep tension there that is always on. That's often the case. They're a little bit overactive, these guys. Exhale, release. So sometimes we have to more learn actually how to deactivate it, how to relax that part. Inhale, lift the tailbone, arch your lower back, create that tension in the lower back, but try for it not to be more towards the outside. There's a lot of other spinal muscles, a little bit more lateral, which we're not trying to engage here. We're trying to focus it really on the core, really on the center. And then release. Do 3 more, be really specific. Lift the tailbone up, arch your lower back, tilt the pelvis, and release. Again, try to relax completely as you let go. Do 2 more. Find a tension in the lower back, just around the spine, but not wider, not towards your waist. And release. We're retraining our body to get really skillful access to our center, to the core muscles, to the spinal muscles. Lift the tailbone, arch your lower back, find the tension, just hold, and then release. Now, come onto hands and knees. Another way to do this is with a pose or a little sequence called the bird dog. I have no idea what the name means, but it works like this. Start to come onto hands and knees and create a neutral spine. So we don't want to arch the back, we don't want to round the back, and we want a very firm abdomen here. And we're going to be challenging those multifidi muscles, mainly in the lower back, by again creating some instability. So we do this by lifting the right leg, but don't go so high that your lower back drops. So we want to keep this central structure really tight. So keep that. Don't go too high with that leg or you'll lose that. You don't need to lift it very high at all. And just think of stability in the lower back. Be quite precise about this. Also try not to lift one hip up or down. Keep the hips level. And if you feel quite stable here, you can try reaching the left hand forwards. So feel that. Deep activation in the lower spine. That's the multifidi. Keeping your spine balanced. Of course, none of these muscles work in isolation. There's always a whole bunch that work together. But we're getting to know those deeper, more subtle structures. Place everything down. Again, find your alignment, neutral spine with a firm core, firm abdomen. Reach the left leg back, lift it up a little bit, but not too high. And again, feel the stability in the lower belly, in the lower back, in the waist, in this whole structure around your center here. And then if you feel it's possible, reach the right arm forward, but focus not on the arm and the leg, but focus on the belly, on your center, on the stability in your lower back. Feel that. One more breath, and then place everything back down. We've got one more muscle group that I would like to just explore, which is the obliques, the ones that are mainly situated in your side. So from hands and knees, all we're going to do is shorten the right side body. So move your right hip slightly to the right and move your right shoulder slightly towards the right hip. So we're shortening this distance, lengthening the other one on the left. Look over the right shoulder. And then back to center, and then go the other way. Contract the left side body, left hip to the left, left shoulder, squeeze a little bit back, and then right. And left. One more, right. And left. Nice. From here, lie down on your back. Actually, no, let's lie on the side for this one. I'd like to just place the head on the forearm here. Have your knees at a 90-degree angle to the torso and reach the right arm overhead to start with. Now all we're going to do is reach right arm over the right hip. You can lift your head a little bit, and at the same time, keeping the knees together, can you lift the right foot? And then sweep the arm overhead, lower the right leg. Let's do this a couple of times. Lift the right leg, reach your head up, right ear to right hip, just imagine, and lie back down. So none of these core exercises are really intense. They're quite subtle, but they have a really deep activation and require quite a lot of awareness of your center to do them properly. Lift up and lower a couple of times, and then you'll feel the activation of the obliques in your waist, in the right waist here. Let's do one more. Think right ear to right hip. And lower down. Swap to the second side. Lie on your left or your right hip, knees together. You can lie with the head on your left arm. And then left arm overhead to start. Reach the left hand over left hip and lift the left leg. Keep the knees together. Lift the left ear to left hip. And reach arm overhead, lower the leg. Do this a couple of times. Takes a bit of coordination, but this is really great to just re-educate your body about moving from your core. So do a couple of reps here. You can of course link that to the breath. However it works best for you. I like to exhale as I lift up. Inhale as I reach overhead, but for you the opposite might actually work better. So just see how it works. Let's do one more. Nice. Well done. Come back to sitting. This was it. Subtle core work. I hope you enjoyed. We didn't murder our abs. We didn't sweat buckets, but we got into some really interesting, deeper layers. You might have learned about a few new muscles today, and I really hope you enjoyed. It leaves you feeling confident and strong, a little bit more skillful to work your core in a smart way, not to murder it with crunches. And I hope to see you again soon. Namaste.